The massive crystal station hung in space like a frozen star. Its walls were clear as glass but stronger than any metal. Inside, 12 different types of alien beings sat around a circular table that glowed with soft blue light. This was the Galactic Council, and today they had a problem. Admiral Zethkar stood at the center of the room. His skin was dark green and covered in small scales that caught the light. 2 large yellow eyes looked at the other council members as he spoke. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "We are here to talk about the humans," he said. "These new creatures have somehow learned to travel between stars, but they are still very primitive." A tall, thin alien with pale blue skin nodded slowly. This was Ambassador Kethrum from the Lumina people. Her people were made of pure energy held together in a body shape. She could change her form at will, but today she looked almost human except for her glowing white eyes. "Yes," Kethrum said in a voice like singing wind. "We have watched them for several months now. They have spread to 3 star systems near their homeworld. But their technology is so basic it makes us laugh." At the far end of the table, a creature that looked like a giant lizard opened its mouth to show rows of sharp teeth. This was Warlord Thax from the Vorthak Empire. His people loved war and fighting, but even they thought humans were funny. "Show them the videos," Thax hissed. "Let everyone see how stupid these humans are." Zethkar pressed a button on his wrist. Device, the air above the table filled with moving pictures. The images showed human soldiers running across a field while carrying long metal tubes. The humans wore thick clothing and heavy helmets. They moved in straight lines and shouted at each other. "Look at this," Zethkar said, pointing at the images. "They still use weapons that throw small pieces of metal. They call them bullets." "Can you believe such a thing?" The council members began to laugh. Some made sounds like birds chirping. Others rumbled like thunder. The Vorthak warlord slapped his clawed hand on the table. "Metal throwing metal," Thax roared with laughter. "What will they think of next? Rocks throwing rocks?" The images changed to show human spaceships. The ships were gray and boxy with no smooth curves or elegant designs. They looked like flying metal boxes with engines stuck on the back. Smoke and fire came from the engines, and the ships moved slowly compared to alien vessels. "Their ships burn chemicals to move through space," said a new voice. This came from Director Yoth, whose people called themselves the Collective. Yoth looked like a floating ball of water with hundreds of tiny lights inside. "We stopped using such crude methods over 1,000 years ago. And look at their fighting style," Zethkar continued. The images now showed human soldiers hiding behind rocks and trees. They would pop up, shoot their weapons, then hide again. They fight like scared animals. No honor, no proper battle formations. They crawl in the dirt like insects. Ambassador Kethrum leaned forward. Her glowing form grew brighter as she spoke. "We have studied their history. They have been fighting wars for their entire existence. But somehow they never learned to fight properly. They waste so much energy on these messy tactics." "Their weapons are the funniest part," added Captain Vexter, another member of Zethkar's species. "They use explosions to hurt each other." "Explosions. Like children playing with firecrackers. Our energy weapons can cut through mountains, but they still throw metal and make loud noises." The council watched more videos of human military training. The humans practiced jumping over walls, crawling under nets, and carrying heavy equipment. They worked together in small groups, always talking to each other through radio devices. To the aliens, it looked like chaos. "They have no individual strength," observed General Crix from the Silicon Hegemony. "His people were made of living crystal and could change their body shape at will. Each human is weak alone. They can only work as a group. This shows how primitive they are." Warlord Thax stood up, his massive form casting shadows across the table. "My people could defeat their entire military with one battle cruiser. These humans are not even worth our time." "But they have faster than light travel," Director Yoth reminded them. "Somehow they learn to move between stars. This could be dangerous if we ignore them." Admiral Zethkar waved his hand dismissively. They probably stole the technology from some other species. Or maybe they found it by accident. Look at their ships. They are barely holding together. I doubt they even understand how their own drives work. The images changed again to show human colonies on other worlds. The buildings were simple and functional, with no artistic beauty. Humans worked in mines and farms, digging in the dirt and growing food in greenhouses. Everything looked temporary and rough. They lived like insects, said Ambassador Catherine. Building simple nests and gathering resources, no culture, no art, no higher thinking, just survival and reproduction. Perfect for slavery, Thax said, with a cruel smile. Once we defeat them, they will make excellent workers. They seem to enjoy digging in dirt and carrying heavy things. Captain Vexter brought up a tactical display. It showed the 3 human colonies in space, with their positions and defenses marked. Look at their defensive positions. A few small weapon platforms around each colony. Maybe 20 ships total across all 3 systems? My grandmother could conquer all of them with a fishing boat. The council members laughed again. The sound echoed through the crystal chamber like breaking glass. We cannot let them think they are equal to us, Zethkar said, his voice becoming serious. If we ignore them, other primitive species might get ideas. We need to show the galaxy what happens when lesser beings try to join civilized space. A demonstration, agreed General Crix. Something that will make them understand their place. What do you suggest? Asked Director Yoth. Zethkar smiled, showing his own sharp teeth. We attack one of their colonies. Not to destroy it completely, just to show them how helpless they are. Then we demand surrender from their homeworld, simple and clean. Which colony? Captain Vexter asked. The one they call Proxima Centauri. It is closest to their homeworld and has the most humans. When we defeat it easily, the rest will see how pointless resistance would be. Warlord Thax slammed his fist on the table again. Let me lead the attack. My people live for battle. We will show these humans what real warriors look like. No, Zethkar said firmly. This is not a real battle. This is a lesson. We do not need your berserkers for this simple task. A single patrol fleet will be more than enough. How many ships? Asked Ambassador Kethrim. 12 ships, all with full energy shields and plasma cannons. The humans will surrender when they see they cannot even scratch our hulls? The council voted quickly. It was unanimous they would attack the human colony at Proxima Centauri with a small fleet. It would be a quick demonstration of superiority, nothing more. When do we attack? Captain Vexter asked. 3 weeks, Zethkar decided. That will give us time to move the fleet into position and prepare recording devices. The whole galaxy should see this lesson. As the council meeting ended, the alien beings felt confident and amused. They had dealt with primitive species before. It always ended the same way. The primitives saw superior technology, realized they could not win, and submitted peacefully. The humans would be no different. Admiral Zethkar looked at the images of human soldiers one more time as the other council members left. The humans looked so clumsy and weak with their simple weapons and basic tactics. He almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Prepare the fleet, he told Captain Vexter. This will be the easiest conquest in hegemony history. Neither of them noticed the small detail in one of the human training videos. A soldier's patch that read 82nd Airborne Division with a skull and wings underneath. They could not read human writing, and even if they could, they would not have understood what it meant. They were about to learn. 3 weeks after the council meeting, Captain Vexter stood on the bridge of his flagship. The ship was called Endless Glory, and it was beautiful. The hull was smooth black metal that seemed to absorb light. Energy shields flickered around. It like a second skin. Inside, everything was clean and perfect. Vexter looked at the main screen. It showed a star system with one yellow sun and several planets. The third planet had a small moon, and around both the planet and moon were tiny dots of light. Those dots were human ships and stations. Proxima Centauri system, announced his navigation officer. The human colony is on the fourth planet. We count 15 defensive platforms and 6 ships. Vexter laughed. 6 ships? Admiral Zethkar sent 12 vessels for 6 human ships. This will be easier than I thought. Behind him, 11 other hegemony ships moved in perfect formation. Each ship was twice as large as the biggest human vessel they could see. The alien ships moved silently through space, their energy drives leaving no trail. Open communication. Channels, Vexter ordered. Let us talk to these humans before we destroy them. The communication officer pressed several buttons. After a moment, a human face appeared on the screen. It was a woman with short brown hair and tired eyes. She wore a blue uniform with patches and symbols that meant nothing to the aliens. Unknown vessels? This is Commander Sarah Chun of the Proxima Defense Force. You are entering human space without permission. Please state your intentions. Vexter smiled, showing his sharp teeth. I am Captain Vexter of the Galactic Hegemony. Your species is new to space travel. You will surrender your colony and accept placement under hegemony protection. Resistance is pointless. The human woman stared at him for several seconds. Then she said something that confused Vexter completely. Captain, are you familiar with the Geneva Conventions? The what? Vexter asked. Rules of war? Laws about how civilized beings conduct military operations. Protection of civilians, treatment of prisoners, that sort of thing. Vexter looked at his officers. They looked back with equally confused expressions. You speak of rules for war? There is only one rule, the strong take from the weak. Surrender now and your people will be treated well. Commander Chun sighed. I see. You're not familiar with the concept of rules of engagement either, are you? Enough of this nonsense, Vexter snapped. You have 1 hour to evacuate all military personnel and surrender your defensive systems. After that, we will demonstrate the power of civilized technology. The human woman's face changed. Her tired look was replaced by something harder. Captain, I need you to understand something. This colony has 40,000 civilians. Men, women, children, elderly people. They have nothing to do with our military. If you attack civilian targets, you will have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. Your civilians are not my concern, Vexter said. 1 hour. The screen went dark. Vexter turned to his weapons officer. Begin attack patterns. Target their defensive platforms first, then their ships. Leave the planet untouched until they surrender. The 12 hegemony ships spread out in a wide circle around the human colony. Each ship was protected by energy shields that could stop almost any weapon. Their plasma cannons could melt through metal like butter. Approaching the asteroid belt, the navigation officer reported. The humans have placed defensive platforms throughout the field. Vexter studied the tactical display. The humans had built their defenses in the strangest way. Instead of putting all their weapons in one strong position, they had scattered small platforms throughout the asteroid belt. It looked random and disorganized. Foolish, Vexter muttered. They split their forces. We can destroy them one by one. The first hegemony ship moved toward the nearest platform. It was a simple metal structure with 2 large guns and some communication equipment. The alien ship fired its plasma cannons, expecting to vaporize the platform instantly. The plasma beams hit empty space. The platform was gone. Where did it go? Vexter demanded. Unknown, sir. It was there a moment ago. On the tactical display, the platform reappeared behind a large asteroid. It fired 2 projectiles at the hegemony ship. The projectiles looked like simple metal rods about the size of telephone poles. The alien captain laughed. Metal spears against our shields? These humans are even more primitive than we thought. The metal rods hit the energy shields at incredible speed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shields began to flicker and spark. Warning alarms sounded throughout the ship. Shield generators overloading. The engineering officer shouted. Those projectiles hit us at 30% of light speed. Impossible, Vexter said. How did they accelerate simple metal to such velocities? Before anyone could answer, more platforms opened fire. The projectiles came from different directions, some from behind asteroids, others from positions that had seemed empty moments before. The hegemony ships tried to target the platforms, but they kept moving and hiding. "This is not how space combat works," the tactical officer said. "They should fight us in open space, ship to ship." Instead, the humans fought like they were hunting animals in a forest. They used the asteroids for cover, appearing just long enough to shoot, then disappearing again. Their communications were scrambled in ways the aliens had never seen before. The second hegemony ship took multiple hits. Its shields failed completely, and one of the metal rods punched clean through the hull. The ship began spinning out of control, atmosphere leaking from a dozen holes. "Captain," the communication officer said, "the humans are talking to each other on multiple frequencies. But we cannot understand what they are saying." "Why not? Our translators worked fine earlier." "They are using codes, sir, and they keep changing the codes every few minutes." Vexter watched in growing alarm as a third ship took damage. The humans were coordinating their attacks in ways that made no sense. They seemed to know where every hegemony ship was at all times, even when the alien vessels were hidden behind asteroids. "How are they tracking us?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. Our stealth systems should make us invisible to their primitive sensors." A fourth ship appeared on the tactical display, but this was a human ship, and it was moving fast. Too fast. It came out from behind a large asteroid and headed straight for the damaged hegemony vessel. "It's on a collision course," the navigation officer reported. "Should we warn them they are about to crash?" Vexter stared at the display. The human ship was small, maybe 1/10 the size of a hegemony vessel. Its hull was scarred and blackened, as if it had been in many battles. It was accelerating toward the alien ship with no signs of slowing down. "They must have lost control," Vexter said. "No one would deliberately crash their ship into an enemy vessel." The human ship slammed into the damaged hegemony vessel at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire and metal. Debris scattered across thousands of kilometers of space. For several seconds, no one on Vexter S. Bridge spoke. They had just watched a human crew deliberately destroy themselves to take out one enemy ship. "Sir," the communication officer said. Quietly, "We are receiving a transmission from the human colony." "Put it on screen." Commander Chun appeared again. This time she was wearing a helmet and body armor. Behind her, other humans were running back and forth, carrying weapons and equipment. "Captain Vexter," she said, "you have now seen what happens when you threaten human civilians." That was the USS Defiant. "Her crew voted unanimously to ram your ship rather than let you continue your attack on our families." Vexter felt cold despite the warm air of his bridge. "They chose to die rather than retreat?" "Captain, you still don't understand what you're dealing with. This colony has been here for 15 years. These people have built homes here. They've had children here. Some of those children have never seen Earth. This is their world now, and they will not give it up to alien invaders." Another hegemony ship took damage from multiple projectile hits. Its captain reported that his weapon systems were offline. "Your people fight without honor," Vexter said. "Hiding behind rocks, using suicide attacks? This is not civilized warfare." Commander Chin's expression grew harder. "You came here without warning, demanded our surrender, and threatened our civilians? You want to talk about honor? Here's what honor means to humans. We protect our own, no matter the cost." More human ships appeared on the tactical display. These were larger vessels moving in from the outer system. Vexter counted 8 new contacts, all heading toward the battle. "Reinforcements," his tactical officer reported. "But sir, our intelligence said the humans only had 6 ships in this system. Where did the others come from?" Vexter demanded. Commander Chun heard the question through the open communication channel. "Those ships? They were already here, Captain. Hidden in the asteroid belt, powered down, waiting. We've had 3 weeks to prepare for your arrival." 3 weeks? How did you know we were coming? For the first time, the human woman smiled. It was not a friendly expression. "Captain, Did you really think you could move 12 warships across 3 star systems without someone noticing? We've been tracking your fleet since you left Hegemony space. Vexter felt his confidence slipping away. This was not going according to plan. The humans were supposed to be primitive and weak. They were supposed to surrender when they saw superior hegemony technology. The first plasma beam from orbit hit New Haven City at exactly 14:32 local time. The energy blast melted through the dome that protected the city from the thin atmosphere. In seconds, buildings that had taken years to build were turned to glass. And Commander Sarah Chun watched from her command bunker as the city died. The screens showed empty streets that minutes before had been full of people going about their daily lives. Teachers in schools, doctors in hospitals, children playing in parks, all gone in a flash of alien fire. "Ma'am," her communication officer said quietly, "Earth Command is on the quantum link." Chun looked at the young man. Lieutenant Rodriguez had tears in his eyes as he watched the destruction. His sister had lived in New Haven, had lived. "Put them through," Chun said. The screen flickered and showed the face of Admiral Marcus Thompson, commander of Earth's Terran Defense Force. Behind him, Chun could see the war room on Luna Base. Dozens of officers were working at computer terminals, their faces grim. "Sarah," the Admiral said, "we received your transmission 17 minutes ago. I'm sorry about New Haven." "They targeted civilians, sir. 40,000 people. No military value at all." Admiral Thompson's jaw tightened. "I know. We've been tracking the alien fleet since they entered our space. The President has been briefed. As of 20 minutes ago, we are at war." Chun felt something cold settle in her stomach. War, real war, not just a skirmish or border dispute. She had studied military history. She knew what humans were capable of when they truly went to war. "What are your orders, sir?" "Hold position. As long as possible, make them pay for every kilometer." "Reinforcements are already moving. How many ships?" Admiral Thompson paused. "All of them, Commander. Every ship we have." The transmission ended. Chun stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned back to the tactical display. The alien ships were moving into position to bombard another city. "Contact all units," she ordered. "New rules of engagement? They want to kill civilians?" Then there are no rules anymore. Meanwhile, in space above the planet, Captain Vexter watched the destruction with satisfaction. The human city had burned beautifully. Now the other cities would surrender rather than face the same fate. "Target the next largest population center," he ordered. "Sir," his sensor officer said, "I'm detecting quantum communication bursts from the planet. The humans are sending messages to other star systems." "Let them," Vexter said. "Who will they call? They have no allies." "No one will help a primitive species against the hegemony." He was wrong about many things, but he was especially wrong about that dot on Earth in the underground command center beneath the Swiss Alps. President Maria Santos stood before a wall-sized display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked known alien civilizations. Blue dots showed human colonies, and now, flashing yellow, was Proxima Centauri. "How long until our fleets arrive?" she asked. General Patricia Hayes, Chief of Staff for the Terran Defense Force, consulted her tablet. "First response group will reach Proxima in 18 hours. Main battle fleet will take 3 days." "And the other assets?" General Hayes smiled grimly. "Already moving, Madam President. Operation Anvil is now active." President Santos nodded. Operation Anvil had been planned for years, ever since humanity first detected alien radio signals. It was based on a simple principle: if humanity ever faced a superior alien force, they would not fight fair. They would fight to win. "General, transmit the activation codes. All black sites, all special projects. Everything we've built in the dark." "Yes, ma'am." Across human space, hidden bases received coded messages. On Mars, massive doors opened in the sides of mountains, revealing shipyards that officially did not exist. Near Jupiter, asteroid mining stations suddenly stopped mining and began moving. In the outer system, automated factories that had been building cargo ships for decades revealed their true purpose. At Titan Base, Colonel James Park received the activation order while drinking coffee in his office. He had waited 15 years for this message. Around him, 2,000 of humanity's best military engineers suddenly found out what they had really been building. "Ladies and gentlemen," Park announced over the base communication system, "Project Prometheus is now operational. Prep all 36 units for immediate deployment." In the shipyard, 36 vessels that looked like cargo haulers began to transform. Hidden armor plating deployed. Weapon systems emerged from concealed compartments. What had appeared to be simple freight ships revealed themselves as something much more dangerous. Back at Proxima Centauri, the alien bombardment continued. Captain Vexter was feeling confident again. 3 human cities were now burning ruins. Surely the colonists would surrender soon. "Sir," his communication officer said, "we're receiving a transmission from the remaining human ships. Put it on screen." Commander Chun appeared again. This time she was standing in what looked like a different command center. The walls were rougher, carved from rock. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on her face. "Captain Vexter," she said, "you have made a mistake." "Have I? Your cities burn, human." "Surrender now and I will spare the rest." "No, Captain. Your mistake was thinking that killing our civilians would make us surrender. You don't understand what you've done." Behind Chun, other humans moved with urgent purpose. Vexter could see them carrying weapons and equipment, but something was different about them now. They moved with a focus he had not seen before. "What I have done," Vexter said, "is demonstrate the price of resistance. Your species will learn to obey." Chun shook her head. "Captain, for the past 50 years, every human child has learned about something called the Holocaust. We learn about a time when evil people decided that some humans were not worthy of life. We swore it would never happen again. Your history means nothing to me. It should. Because we also learn about what happened to the people who committed those crimes. We hunted them to the ends of the earth. Some of them hid for decades, but we never stopped looking. We never forgot." Vexter was getting tired of the human speeches, more empty threats. "Today, Captain, you became one of those people. You chose to murder innocents. And now, every human in the galaxy knows your name, your face, your ship's identification codes." Something cold touched Vexter's spine. "You cannot threaten the hegemony. We are the most powerful civilization in this galaxy." "Were, Captain, past tense." The transmission ended. Vexter stared at the blank screen, feeling confused and angry. What did the human mean by past tense? "Sir," the sensor officer called out, "I'm detecting multiple hyperspace signatures. Something big is coming. Reinforcements?" Vexter asked hopefully. "Unknown, sir. The signatures are different, not hegemony technology." "Space near Proxima." Centauri began to ripple like water. Points of light appeared and grew larger. Ships emerged from hyperspace, but these were not the elegant vessels of the hegemony. These ships were angular and brutal, built for war rather than beauty. "Human ships," the tactical officer whispered, "but they're huge." Vexter looked at the tactical display and felt his confidence crumble. 47 human vessels had just appeared in the system. Some were twice the size of his flagship. Others were smaller but moved with a speed that seemed impossible. "How many ships do these humans have?" He demanded. Before anyone could answer, more hyperspace signatures appeared. And more ships kept arriving in groups of 10 or 20, taking positions throughout the system. "Sir," the communication officer said, "we're being hailed." "Multiple frequencies. From the humans?" "No, sir. From the Galactic Council. Admiral Zefkar wants to speak with you immediately." The main screen flickered and showed Admiral Zefkar. The hegemony commander looked worried, which was something Vexter had never seen before. "Vexter," Zefkar said without greeting, "what have you done?" "I followed orders, sir. I demonstrated hegemony superiority to the humans. You bombed civilian targets." "Yes, sir." "To force surrender." Zefkar closed his yellow eyes. "You fool. Do you have any idea what you have unleashed?" Before Vexter, could answer, his sensor officer spoke up. Sir, I'm counting over 200 human ships in the system now. And more are still arriving. 200? Zethkara's voice was sharp. Our intelligence said they had fewer than 50 ships total. Apparently our intelligence was wrong, Vexter said weakly. Very wrong, Zethkar agreed. Vexter, listen carefully. New orders from the Galactic Council. You will cease all offensive operations immediately. You will offer to negotiate a ceasefire. Sir? Now, Captain. Before this gets any worse, the transmission ended. Vexter looked around his bridge at the confused faces of his crew. 200 human ships. Where had they all come from? Sir. The tactical officer said, the human ships are not attacking. They're just positioning themselves around us. Vexter studied the display. It was true. The human fleet had formed a sphere around his 12 ships. They were trapped, but the humans were not firing. Open a channel to the human commander, he ordered. Commander Chun's face appeared on screen again. Yes, Captain? I wish to discuss terms for a ceasefire. Chun studied him for a long moment. Captain, do you see those ships surrounding? You? Yes. Good, because in about 6 hours, those ships are going to be the smallest part of your problem. What do you mean? Dr. Kethrim floated in her private study aboard the Galactic Council station. Her energy body pulsed with worry as she read through thousands of human data files. What had started as simple research had become something much more frightening. She had been studying human history for 3 days now, ever since the reports started coming in from across the galaxy. Human fleets appearing in systems they should not know about. Human ships using technologies that violated known physics. Human tactics that seemed to change and adapt in real time. The files on her desk told a story that made her core temperature drop. These humans were not the primitive species the Council had believed them to be. Computer, she said to the air, display human conflict timeline. A holographic chart appeared in front of her. It showed human history going back 10,000 years. The chart was almost solid red, indicating periods of warfare. There were tiny gaps of peace, but they never lasted long. How many wars? She asked, counting only major conflicts with over 1,000 casualties. Humans have fought 14,847 wars in their recorded history. Kethrim stared at the number. In her species' entire existence, they had fought exactly 3 wars. Most galactic civilizations had similar records. War was rare, usually fought over critical resources, and ended quickly when one side gained. A clear advantage, computer, show pattern analysis. New data appeared. This was worse. Humans did not just fight wars, they studied them. They analyzed every battle, every tactic, every mistake. They wrote books about fighting, they built schools to teach fighting. They created entire sciences dedicated to the art of war. Display. Human military academies. The list was impossibly long. West Point, Sandhurst, St. Cyr, the names meant nothing to her, but the purpose was clear. These were institutions dedicated to creating better soldiers, better leaders, better killers. Computer, analyze human tactical evolution. What she saw made her form flicker with fear. Human military tactics had evolved constantly over thousands of years. They had started with simple tools like rocks and sticks. But they never stopped improving. Spears became swords. Swords became guns. Guns became missiles. More importantly, their thinking had evolved. Early humans fought in simple groups. Later, humans developed complex formations. Modern humans used something the computer called combined arms warfare, coordinating different types of forces in ways that created advantages greater than the sum of their parts. Show me recent human conflicts, she whispered. The display changed to show wars from the past century. World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. Each conflict taught them something new. Each war made them deadlier, but it was not just the wars themselves. It was how humans approached them. Other species fought until one side gained a clear advantage, then negotiated peace. Humans had a different concept. Computer, define human term total war. Total war. A military conflict in which the participants mobilize all available resources, civilian and military, to completely destroy the enemy's ability to engage in war. Kethrim read the definition 3 times. Her species had no equivalent concept. Neither did any other known civilization. When galactic species fought, they targeted military assets, they followed rules. They maintained honor. Humans did not do any of these things when they truly went to war. Computer, show me human industrial capacity during World War II. The numbers were staggering. In 4 years, humans had built over 300,000 aircraft, 100,000 tanks, and 6,000 naval vessels. They had converted their entire civilian economy into a war machine. Factories that made cars suddenly made tanks. Companies that built refrigerators started making bullets. How is this possible? She asked herself. Computer, analyze human psychological profiles. This was the most disturbing data yet. Human brains were wired differently than other sapient species. Where most civilizations had evolved to avoid conflict, humans had evolved to thrive in it. They actually performed better under stress. They became more creative when threatened. They worked together more effectively when facing a common enemy. Computer, what is the human concept of acceptable losses? Acceptable losses, casualties, and material destruction that military commanders are willing to tolerate to achieve strategic objectives. Other species tried to minimize casualties. Humans calculated how many deaths they were willing to accept to win. They built this thinking into their military planning. Kethrim accessed the reports from Proxima Centauri. The human ship that had deliberately crashed into the hegemony vessel was not an accident or panic, it was a tactic. Humans called it a kamikaze attack, named after pilots who had used similar methods centuries ago. Computer, how many humans died in their major wars? Estimated casualties from major human conflicts exceed 400 million deaths. 400 million from one species on one planet. Kethrim tried to imagine that many deaths and failed. Her entire species numbered only 50 million individuals. Computer, analyze current human military technology. Here was another shock. The weapons the Council had laughed at were not primitive at all. They were refined. Humans had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of throwing projectiles at each other. Their simple, kinetic weapons were the result of centuries of engineering evolution. The files showed human research into electromagnetic railguns, particle beam weapons, antimatter explosives, and gravity manipulation devices. Most of this technology was theoretical for other species. Humans were actually building it. Computer, what is human doctrine regarding alien contact? The answer made her form flicker again. Humans had been planning for alien contact for decades. They had built entire military strategies around the assumption that any aliens they met would be hostile. They had war-gamed scenarios. They had prepared responses. The Council thought they were surprising a primitive species. The humans had been ready for them. Computer, analyze human fleet movements in the past 72 hours. A galactic map appeared showing human ships moving across dozens of star systems. The pattern was not random. It was coordinated, planned. Humans were attacking specific targets in a sequence that made tactical sense, but where had all these ships come from? Computer, analyze human shipbuilding records. The truth was hidden in boring trade documents and cargo manifests. For 50 years, humans had been building cargo ships and civilian transports. Thousands of them. They had been launched quietly, without fanfare, supposedly to carry supplies between colonies. Those ships were not cargo vessels. They were warships disguised as civilian craft. Humans had been building a secret fleet while pretending to be peaceful colonists. Computer, how many ships do humans actually possess? Unable to determine exact number. Conservative estimate, minimum 3,000 combat vessels. Possible maximum, unknown, 3,000 ships. The entire hegemony battle fleet numbered fewer than 800 vessels. Kethrim, access the most recent intelligence reports, human fleets. had appeared in 6 different star systems simultaneously. They had attacked hegemony outposts, alien research stations, and military bases. In every case, they had used tactics that galactic forces were not prepared for. Computer, analyze human. Tactical adaptations in recent engagements. The data was terrifying. In each battle, humans had learned from the previous engagement. They adapted their strategies in real time. They shared information across their entire fleet instantaneously. Most frighteningly, they seemed to treat each encounter as a learning experience. Other species developed tactics over years or decades. Humans improved theirs between battles. Computer, what is the human concept of asymmetric warfare? Asymmetric warfare, military actions by forces that are significantly different in size, equipment, or tactics from their opponents, typically involving unconventional strategies to overcome superior enemy force. This was what the Council had missed. Humans did not fight fair. They did not use honorable tactics. When facing a superior enemy, they cheated, they lied. They used every advantage they could find or create. Kethram pulled up the latest reports from across the galaxy. Human ships were appearing everywhere, using technologies that should not exist. Stealth systems that made them invisible to sensors, weapons that seemed to ignore energy shields, communication systems that could not be intercepted or blocked. Computer, how did humans develop such advanced technology so quickly? The answer was in their industrial records. Humans did not just build things, they mass-produced them. They had automated factories that could produce thousands of identical items. They had research facilities that worked around the clock. They had educational systems designed to create scientists and engineers. Most species developed new technology slowly, testing each advancement carefully. Humans threw resources at problems until they solved them. If one approach failed, they tried 10 others simultaneously. Computer, project likely outcome of current conflict. The computer was silent for a long time. Finally, it responded. Insufficient data, human capabilities exceed known parameters. Galactic Council forces are operating on flawed assumptions about human technology, tactics, and psychology. Kethram understood what that meant. The Council had started a war with an enemy they did not understand, using strategies that would not work, against opponents who had been preparing for this fight longer than anyone realized. Captain Vexter had not slept in 3 days. His ship, the Endless Glory, was surrounded by over 400 human vessels. Every few hours, more ships arrived through hyperspace. The humans were not attacking, but they were not allowing the hegemony fleet to leave either. "Sir," his communication officer said quietly, "Admiral Zethkar is requesting another status report." Vexter looked at the man with tired eyes. "Tell the Admiral the same thing I told him 6 hours ago. We are trapped. The humans have us surrounded and they are waiting for something." "Waiting for what, sir?" "I wish I knew." On the main screen, the tactical display showed the human fleet in perfect formation around his 12 remaining ships. 3 of his vessels had been destroyed in the first battle. The rest were damaged but still capable of fighting. The problem was that fighting seemed pointless. Every time his ships moved, the human vessels moved with them. Every time he tried to target one of their ships, 10 others would immediately move to block his weapons. The humans fought as if they shared one mind. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, "I'm detecting a new hyperspace signature." "Something big is coming." Vexter straightened in his command chair. "Another human ship?" "Unknown, sir. The signature is unusual, much larger than anything we've seen before." Space began to ripple near the edge of the system. The distortion grew larger and larger until it was bigger than any hyperspace portal Vexter had ever witnessed. What emerged from that portal made his crew gasp in shock. The ship was enormous. It was easily 10 times the size of his flagship, maybe 15 times. The hull was dark gray metal covered in angular armor plates. Weapon ports dotted its surface like the eyes of some giant metal creature. Energy readings from the ship made his sensors scream warnings. "By the ancestors," his tactical officer whispered. "What is that thing?" Before anyone could answer, Admiral Zefkar's face appeared on the communication screen. The hegemony commander looked even more worried than before. Vexter, Zefkar. Saad, are you seeing this? Yes, sir. One massive human vessel, but it's just one ship against 60 of ours. 60? Zefkar checked his own displays. Vexter, I count 63 hegemony ships in your area. Vexter looked at his tactical display again. It was true. While he had been focused on the human ships, more hegemony vessels had arrived. His original 12 ships had been reinforced with 51 additional vessels from across the sector. Sir, when did the reinforcements arrive? Over the past 2 days. I sent every available ship. We now have the largest hegemony fleet assembled. In 50 years, Vexter felt a moment of hope. 63 ships against one, no matter how large. Even humans could not overcome those odds. Admiral, he said, recommend we attack immediately. All ships, concentrated fire. Agreed. All vessels, target the human battleship. Fire on my command. Across the hegemony fleet, weapon systems powered up, plasma cannons charged to full power. Energy torpedoes loaded into firing tubes. 63 warships prepared to unleash everything they had against one target. Fire! Admiral Zefkar commanded. Space lit up like a small sun. Hundreds of energy beams and projectiles streaked toward the human battleship. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. The weapons hit the human ship and something impossible happened. Instead of exploding or melting, the battleship's hull seemed to absorb the energy. Armor plates glowed red-hot for a moment, then returned to their normal dark color. Direct hits on target, the weapons officer reported. No apparent damage. Impossible. Vexter said, nothing can survive that much firepower. The human battleship began to move. Despite its enormous size, it accelerated smoothly toward the hegemony fleet. As it moved, weapon ports along its hull began to open. Sir, the sensor officer said, the human ship is powering weapons. Energy readings are off the scale. How many weapons? Vexter asked. The sensor officer stared at his displays. Sir, I count over 300 weapon systems on that ship, and they're all targeting us. Before Vexter could respond, the human battleship opened fire. What came from that ship was not energy beams or plasma bolts. It was something much worse, solid. Projectiles the size of small buildings launched from the battleship at incredible speed. The projectiles moved so fast they seemed to teleport from the ship to their targets. The first hegemony vessel hit by these projectiles simply vanished. One moment it was there, the next it was expanding gas and metal fragments. Evasive maneuvers! Admiral Zefkar shouted over the communication channel. The hegemony ships began to scatter, but the human projectiles followed them. These were not simple metal rods like the earlier weapons. These projectiles seemed to think, changing course to track their targets. A second ship exploded, then a third. How are they doing this? Vexter demanded. How can solid projectiles track moving targets? His tactical officer was studying the sensor readings. Sir, I think the projectiles have their own guidance systems. They're essentially small spacecraft designed to ram our ships. Another ship died. The projectiles punched through energy shields like they were not there, then tore through hulls designed to withstand the pressure of deep space. All ships, Admiral Zefkar commanded. Concentrate fire on the battleship. Ignore everything else. The remaining hegemony vessels turned their weapons back toward the human ship. But as they did, something else happened that made Vexter's blood run cold. Every other human ship in the system began to move. The 400 vessels that had been quietly surrounding the hegemony fleet suddenly came alive. They moved with perfect coordination, each ship taking a specific position. Sir, the communication officer said, we're receiving multiple targeting locks. Every human ship is aiming at us. Vexter looked at the tactical display and finally understood what was happening. The human battleship was not fighting alone. It was coordinating with every other human vessel in the system. They were all part of one massive weapon. Sir, his sensor officer called out, I'm detecting data transmissions between all human ships. They're sharing targeting information in real time. What does that mean? It means, sir, that we're not fighting 400 separate ships. We're fighting one intelligence that controls 400 batas. The human ships opened fire together. Energy beams, kinetic projectiles, and weapons that Vexter could not identify filled space around his fleet. The attack was perfectly coordinated. Each human ship targeted a different hegemony vessel. There was no wasted fire, no confusion, no hesitation. 5 more hegemony ships exploded in the first salvo. Return fire. Admiral Zethkar screamed, but when the hegemony ships tried to target the human vessels, they found that their enemies had already moved. The human fleet flowed around the alien weapons like water, never staying in one place long enough to be hit. The human battleship fired again. This time, the projectiles were different. They exploded before hitting their targets, filling space with clouds of smaller projectiles. These secondary projectiles swarmed over the hegemony ships like angry insects, finding every weak point in their armor. 10 more ships died. Sir, Vexter's tactical officer said, recommend immediate retreat. We cannot win this battle. Vexter looked at the display. In less than 5 minutes, they had lost 20 ships. The human battleship had not even been scratched. Admiral, he called over the communication channel, request permission to withdraw. Admiral Zethkar's image flickered with static. His ship was taking damage. Granted? All ships, emergency hyperspace jump. The surviving hegemony vessels began charging their hyperspace drives. But as they did, the human ships moved to surround them more closely. Sir, the navigation officer reported, the humans are jamming our hyperspace drives. We cannot jump. Vexter felt despair settle over him like a cold blanket. They were trapped. The humans were destroying his fleet piece by piece, and there was nothing he could do to stop them. Another group of ships exploded. Then another. The human battleship sent a communication signal. A human face appeared on Vexter's screen. It was not Commander Chun this time. This was a man with gray hair and hard eyes. His uniform was different, with more symbols and decorations. Hegemony vessels, the man said calmly. This is Admiral Marcus Thompson of the Terran Defense Force. You have 30 seconds to surrender unconditionally. We will never surrender to primitives. Admiral Zethkar's voice came over the channel. Admiral Thompson's expression did not change. Then you will die. The human battleship fired one more time. The projectile that emerged was different from all the others. It was smaller, but it moved faster than anything Vexter had ever seen. It struck Admiral Zethkar's flagship, and the entire ship simply vanished in a flash of light. 20 seconds, Admiral Thompson said. Vexter looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at him with fear in their eyes. Through the main screen he could see the human battleship preparing to fire again. I surrender, he said quietly. Louder, Captain. I surrender. Vexter shouted. All hegemony ships, cease fire and surrender immediately. The shooting stopped. Space fell silent, except for the crackling of burning ships and the hiss of escaping atmosphere. Admiral Thompson's face remained on screen. Captain, you and your surviving crews will be taken prisoner. Your ships will be impounded. Any attempt to resist will result in immediate destruction.